I'm Gianni Rέkka from fly.com.gr, and today we have here with us Mr. Howard Bromberg. He's Vice President for Strategy and Business Development, Integrated Air and Missile Defense of Lockheed Martin Corporation. Am I correct, Mr. Bromberg?
Yes, you are.
Thank you so much. So, our main topic today, which is of discussion, which is something very crucial for the Hellenic artillery, is to increase capabilities. And of course, our main system that we need to discuss about it, it's the MLRS launcher system, which is a Lockheed Martin system. And we're very proud for this system to be in the Hellenic Army. And I think you have some very important things to tell us about your new proposal, I guess, for the modernization of the system.
Yes, we have a lot to talk about, and thank you first of all for allowing me to be here today and taking the time. It's really a great opportunity. As you know, Lockheed Martin has a long relationship in Greece, providing a wide variety of capabilities. And particularly in this area of rocket artillery is a very key one. You know, we've been associated for quite some time with Greece and the operations and capability of the M270. And right now, of course, is a time to modernize, and this is what we're working with the Greek government on, is how to best modernize the rocket artillery. And as you know, the Greek Army operates the M270 version, the tracked vehicle version of multiple launch rocket system. And they're considering how to modernize and what's the best way to do that. And we're in discussions with them doing that. And I'd like to say right up front that there's some key advantages of this of right now to do this for many reasons, and I'll get into all of those. But the first one, if you want me to continue from this point, or did you have another question before I continue?
No. Actually, this is one of the main questions I had, which is the outline of the Greek configuration, because we know our systems are the ones of the first generation, actually. So they're kind of old. They haven't followed all the technological evolution, and I believe this is one of the main key points that you're focusing on to make it more advanced. Am I right?
Yes, and what we call it the M270 modernization program, and basically it's a complete modernization of the vehicle, the electronics, everything to do with the system, brings it current, the software technology that's involved with it, complete modernization. And there are other countries that have already begun this modernization program to include the U.S. government. And so one of the opportunities for the Greek Army is to go ahead and just to modernize the M270, keeping the same vehicle, same structure. It comes back out of the upgrade program looking almost exactly the same. But the inside of it, of course, is all modernized. So that is one option that the Greek Army is looking at. And we're prepared to propose several options, because as they try to balance the readiness, why they're upgrading and modernizing the system, also balancing cost and how things have changed, there are several other options that I'll be happy to go into. But what's key about this is that the M270 is a key product. It's interoperable with NATO. It's interoperable with all the other forces in the region, and it operates and uses what we call the MLRS family of munitions. The term we call it is the MFOM. And what that means is it allows it to fire all the capabilities that go with the M270 and with other programs that use the similar software and similar rockets. So in the M270 case, it will use the options are, and these are options again, to use the guided MLRS, the guided MLRS extended range version, also to use ATACMS, and also to use the future capability of the precision strike missile. All those can be used by the M270. And then again, there are other options I'll be happy to talk about as well if the military decides they want to go a different pathway.
So you mentioned one of the most crucial questions I get from Greek readers and viewers, which is the PRSM missile. So is this available for Greece? Because it's high sophisticated, and of course it's a very new missile that enters to the armory of the MLRS family.
Yeah, so the precision strike missile, or commonly called PrSM, right now is entering initial rate production for the U.S. government. We've just had some flight tests with that. And the decision on whether it's exportable from the U.S. to Greece is a U.S. government decision, but it's certainly we would expect it would be in the near future. But that has to go from government to government for approval. But the M270 and other variants all operate and can use the PrSM rocket. Now, it's also important to know there's also future capabilities of PrSM that are in development and that will be in production later on. Different ranges, different capabilities such as hitting moving targets and those kind of things. Those are all in development and moving along quite quickly, as a matter of fact. This is a major focus of the U.S. Army is long-range precision strike, and that's the capability that this missile fits. So you have the high precision capability, the reliability of the system, and the heritage of the Lockheed Martin weapon systems and rockets to guarantee that the weapon performs as we say it does.
So as I understand, a key future capability will be to engage moving targets, such as, for example, ships. Would it be able to engage ships while sailing?
Yes, and actually that's already been demonstrated, and that's what they call increment 2. And we've already demonstrated that. There was an exercise called Valiant Shield, and there's public information on that. That would be our second increment of PrSM. So that's well into more than development, actually into testing right now. We expect that to be available in the very near future. And of course, PrSM is a multi-domain rocket. It's all weather. It has the high precision that we all desire to have, and it can be fired from both of our HIMARS platform, the wheeled vehicle version, as well as the M270 version. So having that capability, that you'll have access to those kind of weapons in the future. So
tell us some more about the Greek configuration. You told us before that you have several offers or proposals for the Hellenic Army regarding, of course, the funding. So can you describe us some of the proposals? For example, would it be a high-low mix or some not modernly? Yeah.
Yeah. So we know, as I said before, the M270 variant is on a tracked vehicle, and that's the current configuration. And so if the Greek Army wants to continue with that capability, we could just work an upgrade proposal, just strictly upgrading that. But if they wanted to look at, well, I need to do something a little different, maybe I want something a little smaller, such as like HIMARS, you could mix HIMARS vehicles, HIMARS launchers, and the M270. And it's important to point out that because they use the same munitions, the same software, there's a lot of common logistics. The training is very common, except for the vehicle portion. The actual operators don't have to learn anything different on how to employ the system. So it's all very easily transparent. But you could mix, so you could have some wheeled vehicles that fit on the back of, like, for C-130 aircraft for rapid transportability. You could mix that with tracked vehicles. And that would be a different, not just a mix of capability, but there'd also be a mix then of how you fund that, because the HIMARS wheel vehicle chassis is not as expensive necessarily as the tracked vehicle chassis. So those packages could be put together. And if there was interest in doing that to maintain readiness, we believe we can deliver up to the first 2 HIMARS launchers within 18 months time period after we were to contract that. So there's a very rapid period of turning that around for production. And one of the reasons we can do that is because we're at a very high rate of production right now because of the global demand for rocket artillery. We're producing more launchers than we've produced before. We're producing more rockets than we produced previously. So we have access to that inventory. Now, the other important thing about that is you have the ability then with a mix to handle both missions, but again, your training is very similar. You wouldn't have to retrain the soldiers or airmen that often or that much. But the other thing that's important is that you could also work with industry in a different way with both mixes. In all of these, we're going to work with industry, of course, but how does industry engage to go ahead and enter into global supply chain opportunities? That could be part of the mixed package. Now, there's another piece of this. There's another option that we could offer, and that's where if people wanted to maybe sell back some of the current M270s and then not have to buy so many, you could do that, of course, with replacing the ones they sell back with HIMARS, or you could just reduce the numbers that you totally buy by selling a few back. It could make the package a little bit less expensive, but all that is the art of the discussion. So I see, if I could, just a couple options. Straight upgrade of your M270 would be one way to go. You could do a mix of HIMARS and M270. You could combine both of those with selling some of the old 270s back. You can also then decide to say, hey, I want to transition totally from the M270 and go right into HIMARS. And again, I know I said it, but I'd like to repeat it if I could. Very common logistics. Training is not a problem. Software is the same, and the rockets are the same. So you get a lot of the same synergies, and all of those are completely compatible inside of a NATO architect. And advantages of linking them to things like F-35 and other capabilities are all exist within these options. So that's the discussion we want to have with the government to say, okay, we're totally flexible. We can design this. Another opportunity, for example, let's say for Greek industry that they wanted to take the rocket part and the software part of the launchers, but put it on a truck that's Greek. We can do that, and we're willing to do that. So you could then have a different kind of industrial relationship as well as a military one. So I'll stop there. I know that was a lot.
You said something very important because, you know, one of the main discussions in the Greek defense communities has to do with the development of our defense industry. And you mentioned that you're flexible also for the Hellenic defense industry to cooperate with you. You mentioned, for example, that we can choose our own truck. Would the Hellenic defense industry be involved in several more projects, for example, the missile itself, or I don't know, something else?
Yeah. In addition to mention the truck, but then within the supply chains of the HIMARS, both the vehicle, the software, and the rockets, there's opportunities for industry to then enter in that global supply chain, not just for procurements inside of your country, but enter into a supply chain that's greater than that. And all those would be discussions. And I'll just, you know, this is just an example. Maybe there's a certain component of the launcher modules. If they can build that, we can work with them to do that, and then those items could be put into a competitive nature for the global supply chain. So it's not just a Greek supply chain, it's also a global supply chain. That would be the intent. And we want to find that partnership. And we're talking with the Greek industry now to try to see where we can find common ground, things that they're interested in as well as things that we're interested in.
It's very important because I see you say you are flexible, but you also prove it because you give many options regarding the program itself. I have to ask you this. During the past proposals, there were some things that had been discussed for the long time that was needed for a MLRS launcher to be modernized. Some people said that the whole program would last for about 10 years, for example. So how much time do you need as Lockheed Martin, or for example, for the whole cooperation to modernize, for let's say our 36 launches, do we need 10 years? Because to my opinion, 10 years are a very long time.
No, we don't need 10 years. So here's the best answer that I can provide for you with it. So what we do is we line up when those launchers would enter in a modernization program with the U.S. and other countries, and we'd fit it into a schedule to do that. So it's not going to take 10 years. The other part of that is how many does the Army want to do per year? Because do they want to maintain a readiness path? Do they want to spread it out for funding? Do they only want to, maybe they want to economize money and only do so many a year. So I think there's some variables. So it's not that I'm not trying to give you a specific number. I don't know what that number would be until we say, what does the Army want to do? How many a year do you want to have turned in? Maybe they only want to have 4 turned in a year. Then we have to fit that in with the production schedule that's going on right now, because there's at least 3 other countries that are doing M270 modernizations. So it's a matter of getting into that pipeline, and then we could give you that. But no, it's not 10 years. I know whatever. It's not a long time. It's just, as I said, if you were to do an option and say maybe I modernize 4, but I want to replace another 4 with HIMARS, you could get the first 2 HIMARS in 18 months. So then you would still maintain a high level of readiness. So all of that will depend on what final option is picked by the government. Does that answer your question? I hope.
Yes, this is very clear. And another issue that was mentioned in the press was the initial high cost that was referring to the initial proposal some months ago. Yet we knew that, we knew that a part of it was referring to ammunition. So your new proposal also is connected to ammunition. For example, do these modernized MLRS are combined also with a specific amount of ammunition, or this is something for the Hellenic Army to decide?
Yeah, the Hellenic Army will have to decide how they want to do that. I mean, we do in most cases when somebody either modernizes or buys a new launcher. There's a certain amount of munitions they buy normally, but that'll be an Army decision. And you might want to put those in different years. You might want to do launchers. So if you use the option of going to HIMARS in the combination, then maybe you get the first HIMARS and just conduct training, and then you get the munitions in the second year. So again, those are all decisions to be made. But normally people do buy, rockets with the new procurements of launchers. That's the normal way to do it. But there's options to work that as well.
There is also a discussion from the Hellenic Artillery generals that we should keep a part of old M270s as they were, because we will need to use the old rockets and of course the old missiles. I'm referring to ATACMS, because we have some specific needs. The old ammunition didn't use a single unit, and they used the sub-munitions. Mm-hmm. But I know that this specific amount of ammunition are also old. Can Lockheed provide service to these old rockets, or is it something that we have to, for example, destroy them, or I don't know, sell them?
Yeah, it really depends on the actual age, because we have a program called the surveillance program that the U.S. government runs, and we fire older ammunition and evaluate if there's still utility in that munition. So we would actually have to have the actual lot number when those rockets were produced, and we could give a recommendation, or the U.S. government could give a recommendation on those could still be used for 5 more years, or those should only be used for training. That recommendation would come based upon the actual age. As far as the capability of the upgraded launchers or new launchers, that they would be able to fire the old ammunition, but we would want the safety requirements to make sure that we ran all those, so it's a safe munition to use, and it still performs the way that it's intended to perform. So that's all something that we can take a good look at, and it's all part of the modernization program. We would discuss all of that with the Hellenic Army.
Mm-hmm. What would you say is the best benefit for a user and for an end user to have the MLRS in its armory?
I think there's several benefits. I think number one, looking into a NATO context or European context, there's several of the other NATO nations that all use these munitions, and so there's commonality within munitions, also common logistics, common software, and so there could be interchangeable with other NATO forces as required if you have a common capability. I think the second thing is the high precision and high reliability of these products. As you know, we've seen many things, just not in Ukraine, but even in other places in Ukraine. That high level of precision is very, very important. I also think because it's not just the vehicles, munitions are interchangeable. You have common logistics, common training, common operating procedures. So that allows you to also work with your partners at a much higher level. I think another reason that it's worthwhile and makes sense to go down this path is that we have a long reputation of standing with these products, and we have a long reputation of being able to provide a total package. So we're not just looking at the launcher, we're looking at the launcher, logistics, infrastructure, support, industrial package. So I think all of those together are all very strong reasons of why it makes sense, both from an operational, logistics, and then a financial aspect, as well as to include the industrial base. And I also think the one other final thing is we have very high rate of production now, but we have a very solid production capability. So when you know you're going to buy something, we're going to deliver it. We deliver it as we say we deliver it, and we deliver it on time. And we can do that because we're producing, for example, on the rockets, we're producing more than 10,000 a year right now. So you know that production line is operating at the top level of efficiency. So those are just some of the reasons, and I'm happy to go into any more details on any of those. But all those together, is why we think it makes good sense.
More than 10,000 rockets is it's a very big number.
Yeah.
Past years we were used to listen to, of course, fewer missiles or fewer rockets, but I think Ukraine has changed the whole scenery.
Yes, absolutely. And I think then within that NATO construct, in fact, I was at NATO last week in Brussels talking to the various nations about not specifically this program, about commonality, interoperability, interchangeability. How do we do that and assure that we have a resilient supply chain to support production, but also the ability to interoperate and interchange our common kit amongst the nations. So that brings us back to options, because you can have the M270 and still be interoperable with munitions and software with another country that has HIMARS. And then, or M270. So you got different options to use together.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, one of the main issues that, of course, always we are facing is the finance. So, do you have also a finance plan for this program? For example, can this be financed from FMS cases or?
Yes, it's an option. Some of these are FMS options that we have, and so yeah, there's FMS capability, but there's also some parts of it like for example, if I mentioned if the Hellenic Army said, well, we'll use a Greek truck, then that truck could be provided by Greece. So it'd be a combination. But yeah, FMS or local funding is all possibility, and then how we work that with industrial packages. There's many options, again, on the table to be able to do that. But I think the big part of the financial thing is having the ability to pick these options. For example, if financing is a challenge, maybe it makes sense to replace some of the M270s with HIMARS that could be less expensive than maybe doing something with M270. And we'll run all those different options for the Hellenic Army so you can see the pros, the advantages and disadvantages of each one of them. But again, you'll have that common logistics, common training, common software all the way through.
And I have to ask you about a specific video I've seen that was really fantastic. And you see, it seemed to be so easy, but I have to ask you. I saw a video where an F-35 was a rendering. CGI was tracking an enemy, and he gave an order to an MLRS launcher to launch a PRISM missile, and just seconds it got it launched the missile, and of course the missile hit the target. So it was so simplified, but is it so simplified? I mean, is it so simple for these two systems to have this specific interoperability? Yeah,
so I won't say it's so simple, but it's all doable, very doable. We've done other examples of that where we've done things with Patriot missiles as well. All, Patriot PAC-3, the MSE missile that we produce, we've connected these. The technology is there to do that. And if you have the F-35, there's great capabilities. The result is as simple as the video just said, but of course there's a lot more work below that. But that's another advantage of being connected to these systems. So, and we're going further than that. We're also looking at other capabilities that can be used to deliver those kind of results. But the idea is to get the information as fast as possible and as accurately as possible to a very, very accurate, precise weapon like a PRISM, like an ATACMS, like a guided MLRS, so you can then put effects on the target very quickly. And you can do that with a high level of confidence. So the basic answer to your question is the video is very accurate. It's all the work below there that takes time, but it's all doable. And again, thinking about NATO, there's more than just one country's F-35s, and there's multiple countries with F-35s. But there's also multiple countries with other means, UASs and other things. And we're working very hard to say, bringing that data off of a UAS or off an F-35 or off an F-16, what do we do with it? How do we get it to everybody who needs it? That's part of our 21st century security environment from Lockheed Martin, connecting all those activities together. And so we spend a lot of time doing that. And you'll see some other things this year that come out in the press I think will be very exciting as well as we connect more and more capabilities together. And this is also a topic about NATO. It's about integrating current capabilities to raise the level of effectiveness for the various countries.
Yes, this is a fantastic topic for another discussion. That
I'm happy to do that. Let me know when.
Yes, I'll also be happy to talk about it with you. So. These were my questions, and of course, all of them were part of our readers and our viewers, because our readers and viewers are highly interested in the capabilities that the Hellenic artillery should acquire by modernizing the MLRS. So you can say whatever you like as a closer to our discussion. Please feel free.
No, thank you very much. So I think what we provide is we provide a very holistic approach to this rocket artillery capabilities of the future. And I think what you know is you're not just getting the high precision, high reliability of this system that's being used by many countries, but then you get the interoperability, you get the security of knowing that you can interoperate, interchange amongst NATO, which is huge. And then I think we have a variety of options for the Hellenic Army and the government to decide what is best for Greece? What is the best way to go? And I think as we work through those options, we'll find the right, I'll call it the right overall construct to provide the best capability at the highest value for not just the Hellenic Army, but also for the industrial base in Greece. So we'll put all that together in one package. I think we can bring that. So I really appreciate the time today. I think this has been very helpful. Happy to do a follow-up with you on any specific topic that I mentioned today in the future. Thank you very much.
Mr. Bromberg, thank you very much for your time. Hope to have another podcast with you, talk about some new things regarding, of course, interoperability and connecting things you said. Thank you very much for being here with us today.
Thank you. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.